Make some magic. This is freshly pressed on your love music, love live station, Smooth 98.1. It's 31 minutes past 7 a.m. on a Thursday morning. Yes, what I like to call a throwback Thursday, where we take things back in time. But for now, we are living in the present, looking at the stories, the headlines, the major talking points in the papers across Nigeria. We get analysis as well, and your thoughts and contributions come through to make it a robust back and forth. Welcome once again to another interactive session. My name is Ayokunmi, and please join us on WhatsApp, join us on YouTube as well. Those are the ways you can keep up with us and let your thoughts, let your voices be heard. WhatsApp number is 0911 999 0981 0911 999 Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell another friend. This is where you need to be every weekday at 7:30 a.m. Joining me to give some analysis, give perspective as well. Mr. C is with me in the studio. Mr. C, good morning to you.
Good morning, Naya. Good morning, Lagos.
All right, it's going to be an interesting morning. A couple of stories here that jump out and make us ask a lot of questions. Well, questions. Will we get answers? Well, I hope to find out. We're going to start in the Vanguard, where the federal government has disbursed 330 billion naira in cash transfers to poor and vulnerable Nigerians through the National Social Safety Net Coordinating Office. That's NASCO. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edu, disclosed this on Monday in Abuja, noting that the intervention is part of President Bola Tinubu's strategy to cushion the impact of subsidy removal and exchange rate reforms on the poorest Nigerians. Now, according to him, about 19.7 million poor and vulnerable households, representing more than 70 million individuals, are captured in the register. Now, these cash transfers are funded from an $800 million World Bank facility being disbursed to 50 million households. Mr. C, 330 billion has been disbursed. Do you think this is the best way to spend this amount of money?
No, sir, it's not. So let's explain this to Nigerians, right? Let's start off this way. A good portion of Nigerians have always complained about the type of loans taken and the purposes for which those loans are taken. Now, this is a World Bank facility in the sum of 800 billion, $800 million, right? Meaning it's going to be repaid. And what do we use this facility for? Not for anything productive, but literally for consumption. Because at the end of the day, it's just a handout, right? It's a handout to poor people, poor and vulnerable, economically vulnerable families. Now, according to the government, there are 19.7 million households on the National Social Register,
Mm.
and only 15 million are benefiting from this cash handouts. Now, what is the quantum of cash being handed out? It's 25,000 naira, which, according to them, will be handed out three times. Now, we're not sure what period of time this covers. The three payments, does it cover a year? Does it cover 4 years? Nobody seems to know. Now, beyond all of this, we're slowly turning into a nation of beggars. Now, 330 billion has gone down the drain. No productive industry started, no productive business started, no productive activity started. It's basically just throwing money at a problem. Would it not have been better to arrange some sort of seminar workshops where you can give the people skills with which they can earn livelihoods? For how long will you give a man fish or bread? Will it not be better to teach the man how to fish, how to bake bread? Now, we're not even going into the integrity of that list, because that list is a continuation of the list that was first drawn up under the previous administration. Yes, the current administration claims it has cleaned it up. But again, this is why the trust deficit between government in Nigeria and the people never seems to narrow. It is virtually impossible for any member of the so-called middle class or upper class not to know at least one individual benefiting from this exercise. It's impossible. Two, this list, according to them, represents over 70 million Nigerians. I believe the figure is a lot higher because a typical Nigerian household is more than three people. It's at least four or five. So we're talking, let's even say for the purposes of this conversation, at least 80 million Nigerians. What is the population figure being bandied around? Maybe about 200. So you're probably looking at about 40% of your population. Now, that is a big problem, very big problem. Now, for how long is this going to continue? In economies that have prospered globally, a quick check through each of these economies will show the existence of a small informal sector that employs people and serves serves as a driver of the economy. So we're talking about neighborhood grocery shops, neighborhood supermarkets, all these tiny cluster of businesses that individually don't amount to much, but when aggregated, you can then see the multiply effect on the economy.
Right.
Now, we have a government that says it wants to continue this. Now, when it is time to repay the facility, from what productive activity will the money come out from? And remember, this facility is denominated in US dollars. It's not denominated in Naira. Now, let's even go into the amount 25,000 Naira, whether in one installment or in three installments. What exactly is it supposed to be fixing? According to the government, there's a 4-year plan from 2021 to 2025. And according to that plan, they aim to lift 35 million Nigerians out of poverty and create 21 million jobs in the rural areas for agriculture. Now, my questions to the authorities this morning are: one, how many people have you lifted out of poverty between the periods 2021 to 2024? I deliberately excluded 2025 because it's still ongoing. Two, what is the number? Then question number three, it's a reverse question. In the intervening period, that is 2021 to 2024, how many Nigerians were plunged into poverty? Then, how many jobs have you created in the rural areas from 2021 to 2024? Because if you're not creating jobs, what exactly are you doing? Because when you create jobs, two things happen. Those businesses start to pay business or company tax. Then the employees pay personal income tax. So the government at both levels, federal and state, start to benefit. And then you can then see the multiply effect, because as they start the economic activity, people are being employed, revenue is being generated. And as more people are employed, the indirect effect on dependents and relatives can clearly be seen. So here we are, National Social Register. We cannot continue this way, especially if we're going to do $1 trillion economy according to them. It's not going to happen. Yes, some critics will argue that in other countries we have welfare programs. Yes, we do. But welfare there is not everlasting membership. Whilst you're on that list, you'll be shown jobs to apply for, and you'll have to apply for a job at some point. So you can't do one and not do the other. It will be better to do the two concurrently. As you have your social register, make sure you continue to create a conducive environment for businesses to thrive so that you can take more people off the social register,
Right,
and get them into paying jobs.
Well, looking at this particular story here, I mean, for anyone out there, if you know anyone who knows a household that has actually received the 25,000 naira cash transfer, we would actually love to hear from, because I personally don't know anyone who has. I mean, if you know anyone who actually has Let us know. And do you also think that this is a judicious way to actually spend this amount of money? Let us know on WhatsApp on 0911 999 Stan says, this whole loan giving to people by the government. As for me, I have never seen or heard of anyone giving this money. Please, have you guys seen or heard of anyone who has collected or received this money? Well, Stan, like I said, I haven't. Anyone who has, please let us know. All right, Mr. C, let us head to River State, where President Bola Tinubu has, on Wednesday, that's yesterday, he announced the end of the 6-month state of emergency imposed on the state, declaring that Governor Simonalai Fubara and his deputy Ngozi Maodu and members of the State House of Assembly will resume their duties from the 18th of September 2025. That is from today. Well, after the 6-month period, I guess democracy has returned to the state of Rivers, if I can put it that way. But Mr. C, just sum this up for us. Give us an idea of where we were, where we are, where we're going to.
Okay. So where we were was that we had political actors from the executive, from the legislative, with a political godfather refusing to behave themselves. And for more than 2 years, the good people of River State suffered. And it got to a point where the executive and the legislature were caught in a cat and mouse game, or a series of cat and mouse games, where we had various courts of law churning out conflicting and amazing rulings, orders, and judgments. Now, personally, I still believe that there was still no basis for a state of emergency to have been ordered, because it wasn't the people, it wasn't a breakdown of law and order in the state. It was just two political camps having their differences out in the open. Now, 6 months later, has peace has peace returned? That's a very good question. I don't have the answer, because again, we must remember that as part of peace returning, we've heard all sorts of meetings were held. Some agreements were reportedly reached, and one of the clauses is that the present governor will not seek a second term. Now, whether that agreement can be enforced in court or law remains to be seen. But beyond all of this, again, the losers here are the people of River State.
Hmm.
It's hard to say what sort of development has happened in the past 3 years. Now, Governor Fubara has 20 months, basically, until he bows out. The first 2 years, he could barely work because he was being hampered, hindered. And it's instructive to note Mr. President's statements that his attempts to resolve the impasse failed. Now, two questions arise from that statement. First of all, what was the impasse? Now, depending on who you listen to or which side of the political divide you identify with, the impasse could be attributable to the governor or to the minister for the FCT. Now, what some Nigerians wanted was Mr. President should speak to his appointee. Whether he did or not, we will never know, or we don't know. But here we are, they're back. Now, will they trust themselves enough to work together? Time will tell. Now, you would think that the state of emergency would have been declared in some other states that actually need it. So where we have states where non-state terrorist actors are ruling supreme, communities are entering into peace agreements with non-state actors. Wanted non-state actors are freely attending meetings where security and government officials are in attendance and nothing happens. Is that not, are those not better grounds for declaring a state of emergency? Now, a question just jumped out of my mind. What if, as Governor Fubara returns to office today, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks down the line, or later this year, they're back into the trenches fighting? What is Mr. President going to do this time?
That is a good question.
Because declaring a state of emergency cannot be the answer all the time. What if his appointee proves to be unreasonable and makes fresh demands that are unbearable for the governor? Is the governor supposed to accept those demands? What if the State House of Assembly decides to go on with his plan for impeachment in contravention of whatever was purportedly agreed at some of the peace meetings held? So River State is an ongoing episode. We'll continue to watch it and see how things unfold. But again, I continue to say the good people of River State are the biggest losers, not even the political actors.
Hmm. There is so much to actually unpack. So many things going on all around the country, and we just want things to function. We just want things to work. We just want a situation where governments can do what they need to do for the benefit of the people, and everyone, in one way, shape, or form, is happy, is satisfied as well. That's all we ask for. It shouldn't be such a huge thing, but hey, here we are. This is Nigeria, as they say, at the end of the day. All right, Mr. C, let's step into the vanguard. The federal government has reintroduced Nigerian history as a compulsory subject in the basic education curriculum, a move officials say is aimed at strengthening national identity, unity, patriotism, and citizenship among young Nigerians. Now, this is an interesting move because, at different points in time, questions have been asked as to why history was taken out of the curriculum at all. And this is coming back to basic education. But now the question is, what sort of history is being introduced into the curriculum? Is it the history that's supposed to be taught in terms of how it actually is? Is it going to be history with some sort of motive? Because if you look at some other countries as well, there have been different arguments back and forth about certain parts of their history not being taught in school and all that. Will we have a history curriculum that is full, that is rich, that tells the whole story? And will it achieve all these things, strengthening national identity, unity, patriotism, and so on and so forth?
Okay. Thank you, Ayo. So this is on paper, this is a good move because again, if you look through if you look through the world, every serious country has its history taught to its people. Because if you do not understand your past, you will not know why the present is happening and you cannot plan for the future. Having said that, and noting the concerns you've raised, what sort of history will be taught to the pupils? Because I see that it's from primary one to GSS3.
Mm.
Now, reason why this becomes important is, for example, when they're talking about the Nigerian Civil War, because that's a major topic you have to study in Nigerian history. How will the remote causes be addressed or identified or explained? How will the immediate causes be identified or explained? How then would you explain the Civil War? Who is right, who is wrong? From what perspective are you going to take it? And then when you are explaining or identifying all the military coups that have taken place, how do you properly identify the remote and immediate causes? So is it going to be revisionist history or is it going to be history as it was? Now, two, do we have the right number of teachers to impart this history? Because that's a big question. Because I wouldn't say that history is a popular subject in university or in the colleges of education. Now, more importantly, they wanted to address national identity, foster cooperation, and all of foster unity, patriotism.
Patriotism.
Now, the issue of national identity has become weakened over the last 10 years, and particularly over the last 4 years, where you now have talk of people who are described as indigens, non-indigens, where some people who have been very outspoken tell other Nigerians to leave particular locations because they are not originally from those places. How do those actions, which were not curtailed, were not checked properly, foster unity? So even when we teach history, when you have people who are who are ethnic driven or ethnic motivated, we have certain public officials who, from their tweets, from their statements, appear to be ethnically or tribally driven or motivated. There's going to be a conflict. So again, in addition to this history curriculum, what is the national identity of Nigeria? That's a very good question. And this is something I hope between the Ministry of Education and the National Orientation Agency, they can provide an answer. Now, patriotism, we haven't really treated our founding fathers very well. The guy who designed the flag, for example, lived in very poor circumstances until he died. And then we tend to reward certain things and tend to overlook certain things. So it's a very big question. Beyond putting this in the schools, I keep saying the family unit has to reorient itself,
True.
reinvent itself,
True.
because all of this without the family unit reinventing itself, becoming strengthened, and our religious institutions from the traditional guys to the mosques to the churches, if they're not able to harp or emphasize on these things, I'm not sure how far we're going to go with this curriculum change. But on paper, it's a good step. Let's now see what's in the curriculum. Let's see how it's going, knowledge will be imparted, and then we can then decide how we can build it in using an NOA to further drive these goals they're looking at.
Hmm. Well, it's an interesting development, and what I'm actually on board with, because I'm sort of a history buff. Well, maybe not, a history geek, but I do love historical stories and looking at things from an ancient perspective. So history coming back into the curriculum, I'm all for that. But as we've said, let the history be taught as is, unfiltered history, and let the stories be put out there in the ways that they actually occurred. Let's not be revisionist. Let's not try to tell the stories that occurred, to tilt in one direction or another. It should be the way it is. And as Mr. C said, the designer of Nigerian flag, that's Mr. Taiwo Ayokunmi, passed in 2023 or thereabouts. He wasn't treated particularly well. Like I need to put it that way. And we need to do better when it comes to those who we consider to be, in quotes, national heroes, because he did something really huge in Nigeria's history, designing the flag, which we still use till this very day. So, good development as far as I'm
So,
concerned.
fun fact, I actually have a degree in history.
Huh, that is a fun fact. Well, maybe you could, take one of those classes at some point and,
We'll see.
Let me take a message or two here before we jump back into the stories. Rexy and Surulere says, I actually know a family that collected 25K over 3 months. Okay, Rexy, was it 25K per month or 25K for the 3 months? Can you clear that up for us a bit? It says Emeka's wife is now sells provisions and near my street. The solutions to our problems can't be instant but incremental. Okay. This is Charles Infesta, who says, good morning, Ayo and Mr. C. Good morning to you, Charles. Frankly speaking, what returned in River State is not democracy. What returned to that state is a full-blown structure of criminality. In civilized climes, Fubara would have resigned the very first day that Wike showcased his greed for the state's treasury, allegedly. As it stands now, Fubara will simply fold his arms and watch Wike's men hold sway and deride him for the rest of his tenure. Look, they'll write Fubara, they'll write Fubara like a zombie. Well, you don't know what's in Fubara's mind. People say it's what's in somebody's mind that he will do at the end of the day. Anyways, Mr. C, let's jump back in. Where are we heading to now? Let's talk about Nupeng, Dangote, and the back and forth going on there. This is from the Punch. The National Industrial Court in Abuja has granted an interim injunction restraining the Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers and the Direct Trucking Company Drivers Association from embarking on industrial action or compelling other drivers to join in. Now, Justice E.D. Subilim, ruling on Wednesday, also restrained the unions from blocking Nigerian roads, frustrating or shutting down the operations of Dangote Refinery, MRS Oil Nigeria, and MRS Oil and Gas Company Limited. The decision followed a motion ex parte filed by the refinery's counsel, George Ibrahim, SAN. This is the latest installment of the saga between Dangote Refineries and Nupeng.
Hmm. Okay. So let's go back. Let's try and break this down for the benefit of our listeners who don't truly understand what is going on. For a while now, our pipelines have simply not worked. And the NNPC then and the NNPCL now, with the Ministry for Petroleum Resources, has been unable to get the pipelines working. That is why the Kaduna refinery is down. That's why we now have this absurd situation where petrol tankers pull up to depots in Lagos to then haul petrol to different parts of the country at ridiculous prices. And then even from the Warri refinery when it was working. Because right now, none of the state-owned refineries is working. And the NNPCL continues to assure Nigerians that they will work one day. Not a problem. Even though some of us know that with the way things are structured, with the way those refineries are, they're not going to work. But let's not digress. So every time they haul the petrol to different parts of the country, they're paid a bridging allowance. And the bridging allowance is determined primarily by your distance, your final destination. Now, guess what? This bridging allowance is built into the price of petrol.
Okay.
Now, we then have a private individual who built a refinery because the government can't simply put his act together. He then says, okay, look, I've studied all of these things. Nigerians should be paying a lower price. He then takes his own money, 720 billion as at the last count, orders 4,000 tankers, CNG powered tankers. And he then tells his customers of the refinery, that look, if you buy a certain quantity, I will supply it to you free at no extra cost. What does that then mean? If that bridging allowance vanishes, automatically the price of petrol should come down because you've taken out that subhead.
Of course, yeah.
Now, why is NUPENG upset? The Petroleum Tanker Drivers Association is a subunit of NUPENG. They're the ones who tend to benefit from this bridging allowance. Now, with that money gone, a real source of income is threatened. Now, the refineries, the private refineries, set up or allowed another union to be created. It has a different name, a union. Some of its members are there. NUPENG now says, no, you guys have to be part of NUPENG. NUPENG, no, they don't have to be a part of you. The Nigerian Constitution guarantees the freedom of association. It's guaranteed. Now, they've been trying to block tanker drivers, even the Dangote CNG trucks, from accessing
The refinery.
Yes, so that's why they had to approach the court. Now, an interim order has been given. It's for 7 days, first instance. It can be extended for an additional 7 days and no more. Now, what is the refinery saying? Decide the issues between us. But whilst we are deciding the issues, right, allow our people to live petrol. It's as simple as that. Now, NUPENG is claiming that its members are being forced to join the other union. That's proof or that evidence submitted to the court. Let the court see it. But if you block the only major refinery working in Nigeria, because there are some others much smaller but also working, if you block the major one from working, right? What are you then saying? Will then be dependent on shipments being imported into the country? And then we're then at the vagaries of international shipping, weather, and the likes.
Going back to square one, more or less.
So the real issue here is NUPENG, like Labour, what exactly do you want? Break it down, make it make sense. Because all the while the refineries weren't working, I can't recall hearing anything from you guys. Do you want to kill this private refinery? If you want to, that's fine. That's it. We're all entitled to hold positions, no matter how untenable they are. Come out and say you want to kill a refinery. You can't force people to join your union. No, it doesn't work that way. People should be given choices. It's just like the political space. You can join the ruling party or join any of the other parties.
Right.
It's just like going out for a meal. There are a lot of choices open. You can't say we must be with you. No. It's like, let me break it down for people so that they'll finally understand that I'm done. A man has two wives, the first wife, second wife. One day, the first wife comes and says, "Okay, no more. You can no longer come and see me at night. And also, you can no longer come and see the second wife." Make it make sense. If you don't want to be seen at night, that's okay. That's your choice. But you cannot speak for any other person.
Hmm.
I'm done.
Well, I don't know if New Peng doesn't realize that what they're doing now probably will make them unpopular with anyone who sees how they're trying to, you know, force the issue in this instance. Anyways, let me take messages, a couple of them to run through. Michael says, this government likes cash palliatives like an addict. I think it's strategic vote buying. I mean, assume the money gets to all targeted individuals. Don't you think they will vote for their benefactor when the time comes? There are many ways to skin a cat. All right. Ajayi Odonilua in Magodo GRA Sherry says, good morning. Good morning to you, Ajayi. It's unfortunate that despite the mishandling of past cash transfers to the so-called poor Nigerians, President Tinubu still continues with this corroborating venture. Some officials came round to my community to verify a list compiled in 2021 with many people on the register either dead or have relocated to other places. In any case, I can confirm that some individuals actually got 75,000 naira each, but a whopping 350 billion naira could have been better utilized to create industries that will employ thousands of people. All right, thank you for that message, Ajay. This is from Stan. Stan says, please, oh, I know there are paid bots by politicians or parties that will flood your platform to claim they've seen who have collected this money. The problem of this country is not only the government, but also some set of citizens who prefer to collect crumbs from politicians and parties just to come online and to back them in any little criticism. I shake my head for the country. Well, Stan, everyone is entitled to their opinions at the end of the day. Joseph Menier in Silver State says, good morning to you, Joseph. The bitter truth is that you cannot beat integrity and transparency with all the propaganda and shenanigans. The country at this time is having surplus money, but aren't meant for the citizens because rather than fixing the country, they choose to fabricate a so-called APC loyalist register, which they settle themselves for the past and future elections victories. Well, I mean, Joseph, you've seen people that said they know people who have received those monies or so. There you are. Then it says Governor Sim Fubara should not remain more than 48 hours in office, but just resign because the political hawks will never allow him at all. May God help us. May God help us indeed. Tony Marine Beat says there's a big question mark on why history was removed from the curriculum in the first place. We need to bring that to the fore, diagnose it, and chart a way forward for us as a people. Otherwise, it'll end up like several other issues, and someone else may come tomorrow and take it out again. History returns is a good one for me, and I agree with you that it must be crude history, in quotes, and not concocted. Even our courts today use history in their judgment, so it's important to us. This is Tayo Naja who says, the important thing is how to apply for the grants because we all need it. In Rivers, suspension over decamping imminent, like Fabrizio would say. Here we go, for those who love football. History is back, but don't let it be political. God bless the departed of the fire incident in Lagos Island. Nobody deserves to die in a poor environment to work. Employers should be held liable. Right. Restraining Nupeng and Co. is a welcome development. They should take interest in other things and not frustrate business. And this is Rexy says the pipelines don't work because Nigerians, unlike citizens elsewhere, wouldn't let it. We burst pipes in remote areas to siphon free fuel. We don't have to deploy millions of workers nationwide to safeguard the pipelines. That just doesn't make sense. Well, we're already, I mean, we're already spending billions on private security outfits to man the pipelines already. So that problem, I don't know how we'll get out of it, but we are where we are. All right, we need to wrap it up this morning. Let me see if there's anything here on YouTube. Anything? Okay, good, but cool. All right, Mr. C, a few words as we wrap up on the show.
Well, it's thank you for having me on the show, and let's not lose hope. Let's continue to grind. Let's continue to do the things that we need to do. Let's continue to be honest. Let's continue to be friendly. Let's continue to be courteous to one another, and let's pray for help that the, we will all enjoy the fruit of our hard labor.
Amen. So that we'll all enjoy the fruits of our hard labor. I pray, I pray, I pray. All right, thank you so much for being a part of Freshly Pressed this morning. It has been quite the interesting morning, and you have made it that way. We appreciate you each and every single day. Thank you, Mr. C, once again. Let us keep it tuned to the Smooth Breakfast, 8:15. The Grapevine is going to be on your radio. It's all about entertainment and all the other good stuff.
The headlines, the stories, the news. In-depth analysis of national current affairs. Freshly